How to start a successful online business. I'm going to give you 8 specific steps on what to do. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. All right. Hey, congratulations on taking the first step in figuring out how do I start an online business. I want to be successful. Right on. Well, I started my first of 16 companies when I was 19. I have built them, bought them, wrecked a couple, and I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people successfully start businesses. It has never been easier to do this. All right. So we're going to go through 8 specific steps on what it is. And a lot of this is covered in our book, The Aspiring Solopreneur, or you can go online to aspiringsolopreneur.com, and we have a whole course on this. Very affordable, very, very safe for you to start your business. The first thing is to define your niche. What is it you want to do? If you want to try and say, oh, I want to do everything for everybody, probably not going to work very well. But if you can get narrow, really define what it is you're exceptional at, or what does your product or service do that is very, very unique? What makes it as unique as possible? But the first thing is to define what that is. What is that product or service that you're offering that's your niche? So as an example, these videos are specific to help people learn how to very safely transition to launching their business. All right. The second is, when you go through and do this, I'm going to encourage, once you define that niche, if somebody uses your product or service, what are the outcomes? And try and list out 50 outcomes that they're going to achieve by obtaining this. So for me, as an example with this, is it helps people redefine what success can look like, live the life of their dreams, achieve and make more money than they ever thought possible. You can just list all these out, but what you want to do when you start marketing is you're going to market to the outcomes, not how you do it. More often than not, when people are starting, people want to tell you exactly how to make everything, how they do everything, all the pieces and parts. And the reality is nobody really cares. What they want is, what are the outcomes you're providing? So if you're hungry and you want a sandwich, is the sandwich good? Yeah, it's got this and it's got meat and this and that. Okay, that's all somebody really wants to know. It's going to make you feel better and you're going to be full. They really genuinely don't care about the artisan wheat and where it came from for the heirloom seeds and how it was stone ground and all that. Don't worry about that. So the first is you define your niche. Then second, when somebody uses your product or service, document what are the outcomes that they're coming out with. Now, for the third one, the third thing is, once you've defined these things, transition your hat as if you're a potential customer. If you're a potential customer, go and solve the problem. How would you solve the problem? And start going online. See where you go. It could be from a Google search to TikTok to wherever it may be. But start seeing how, is if you were trying to solve the problem, what is out there. Now, you're doing this on multiple purposes. One, it's going to help you define where your group of people are, where your tribe is that you're trying to get in front of. What platforms do they use? And then also make notes of what are the language, what are the problems that people are seeing there, how is it being addressed currently? And then how can you R&D, rip off and duplicate from that so that you can stand on those shoulders of somebody else who's already done those things. So first step is define the niche. Second step is define and list out the outcomes. Third is try and solve it yourself. And then the fourth is fish where the fish are. So the silly part is, if you may have the greatest service or product in the world, but if you don't get it in front of the right people, well, you're never going to know if it's right or not. So when you've done your test, that you've tried solving it yourself, you can start seeing, all right, I'm seeing where people are using this here and here and here. Okay, great. If you know that your community, your tribe is in those spaces, that's where you want to go. Fish where the fish are. The next thing is going to be, the fifth is be willing to adjust. Now, so often people come in and they think that this is the product or service I have to offer, and they get very tunnel vision in how they're focusing it. But if they would just adjust and say, wait a minute, if I make these adjustments over here, It's going to allow me to solve it maybe in a little different way, maybe with a little bit of different language, maybe a little different approach. But if you can be curious, get your product about 80% the way there, not 100%, and then figure out those outcomes, solve it yourself, see how others are solving it, start getting in front of people, and then have that willingness as you start to look to adjust it, maybe tweak it, pivot just a little bit so that it starts to fit exactly the need in the language somebody's looking for. The next thing, number 6, is to constantly be testing. And what I mean by constantly testing is when it comes to marketing, when it comes to offering a service or product, unless you happen to get really lucky, it's probably not going to be right to start with. It's going to be a matter of A/B testing. Test this word and this word. Test this tagline, this ad, this piece, and start seeing what hits. But when you start doing this, make sure that you're constantly trying those things. And don't try 10 things because then you don't know what the hell's working. But if you can test A and B, A and B, A and B, A is working, A is working, A is working, great. Now, let B maybe make a note where B was. Now, let's adjust A and then try A1, A2, which is working. A1, A2, A1, A2, and keep testing. And you can do this without a lot of money. You can do it at a pretty reasonable rate. But your primary goal is to understand what are the objectives, what is the language people are using, what are the outcomes they're looking for that matter, and you keep building from that. All right, so once we start doing the testing, the 7th thing is always be using metrics. If you're using your gut, you might be right and you may by default be using some metrics, but likely you're not. Likely you're guessing and you're not sure what's working and what isn't. This is where when you're using quality testing, different ways of doing this, and please check out the channel because we've got a lot of other topics that we cover, and we cover marketing specifically. But when you're A/B testing, then use what are the metrics? Metrics this, metrics that. Metrics this, metrics that. It says, this says working, this says not. This says working, this says what? Why? Okay, that's a little art. Then we can test it again, test it again, test it again. But when you're making decisions based on metrics, it's going to make it a lot easier. So if you know your metrics say that the value, the lifetime value of a new customer is X, let's say it's $100, and your marketing is costing you $120, that's not working. But if you can keep testing and you're like, wow, we're starting to get some traction moving forward with our marketing at $20, great. Keep putting money on there. Throw money on the flames, and then, well, now we're only getting $50. But it's $50, but we're still worth $100. $60 still worth $100. $80 still worth $100, but maybe we need to start backing off a little bit. $100, it's not worth it. But when you follow and use the metrics and trust the metrics, it's going to allow you to make very mechanical and positive decisions so that you know you're having a successful business online. This is where you add gas to the flame with it. All right, then last, the 8th thing is to always have some sort of awareness of what else is coming. The online space can be very, very fickle and it can move quickly. So you're going to have to use those metrics and keep an eye on things on a very, very regular basis. But also understanding is there starting to be a shift in the market. Are things shifting from a color, from a type of product, from a type of service to a different motivation, to a different outcome? Start trying to identify those things. As you flow through that, it's going to allow you to stay in front of it, and it's going to allow you to make sure that you have that success online for years and years into the future. So the 8 steps to how you define or how you start a successful online business. Number 1, define that niche. What is it you do great, better than anybody in the world, ideally? Second, document the outcomes of somebody who uses your product or service. What does that look like? Then, third thing, go out and as if you were a client, how would you solve it? Try and solve it. What can you learn? Where are the fish? What are the motivations? What is the language? The 4th thing, make sure you fish and test where the fish are. Fish where the fish are. The 5th, be willing to pivot, finish up and adjust so that it fits what people are needing, meet them where they're at. 6, constantly be testing. 7, follow the metrics. And 8, always have that awareness of what could potentially be next. So ideally, you found some value in this. Please feel free to go to Aspiring Solopreneur. We've got a whole course with videos and tools and everything that help you very safely start and launch your own business. If you have questions, comments, you can leave them there. Please subscribe to the channel and feel free to share this with anybody else. Keep smiling.